Thank you, everyone. Respected Professor Jiti Thong, the Pro Vice Chancellor, Nagaland University, KOHIMA, for the special thoughts that you have really shared with us. And that was really inspiring. It's nice to see someone from the university, the head of the university, pushing for such initiative. It's very inspiring. And respected Ms. Narola, you have also shared some thought-provoking lines, really meaningful ones. And thanks for the welcome. And thanks also to the debate club for the invitation to have a conversation or interaction on this. Report of critical thinking in the midst of or in the pinnacle of entertainment. I think this is one of the most relevant topics, especially in a Naga society like ours today. And to all the student union leaders and research scholar forum, and also to Teachers Association, thank you so much for all your sharings. Those were very meaningful. I wouldn't speak like here, I don't want to make it so formal that you will feel like as if it's one of your classrooms, right? We can make it like let's just relax mentally and feel free to walk out anytime you want to, because there's nothing positive can come out when you're forced to do. So in life, you don't have to be forced. You have freedom in anything that you want to do. So freedom is everything that we need in our life. Feel free to walk out, feel free to stay, feel free to ask questions. And I would really love if there are more questions and sharings from the student side as well, or from the audience side. And thank you, Ling Choli, for this invitation. He reached out to me on Instagram. So we have a debate club. Why don't you come and we want to have a conversation with you? And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. I asked him what would be the topic like, and he said, we have too much of entertainment in our society. Why don't we talk about critical thinking? I'm like, that's it. That's where I want to go. And I think a university setting like this is the place I want to be. You know, about a year ago, one student union, which has about almost 50 villages under that student union, and they invited me to come and host an event. I asked them, what kind of event is this? They said it's a beauty pageant. I'm not a host for that. I host a talk show, not a beauty pageant, you know. If I come there and host a beauty pageant, then that will spoil the whole thing. But for us, when you say host, means like you can host anything that comes, you know, under any event. So, but at least my point is that I'm happy that I'm in an event like this where we can exchange ideas and knowledge. I'm not qualified to teach because it's a university and I don't dare to teach, but at least I feel I'm qualified to have an interaction with all of you because there's no qualification required for interaction or any conversation, right? So let's keep this a two-way conversation as much as possible. So it's a great topic, and I have been very, very concerned about the trend of entertainment that's soaring when you look at social media or when you look at events that's happening around you. What is one thing, one common thing behind all these events, behind all this investment of times and energy and resources in a society? The one common thing is entertainment. Just to relax, just to have fun, just to enjoy. And as a consequence of that, as we as a society have stopped thinking. And to me, that's one of the greatest setback we can have as a society. When a society stops thinking, nothing good comes out of it. Only the few powerful will capture the whole thing, and that's the time and that's the place where oppression begins. And we all are brainwashed in one way or the other. So the purpose of education, I believe, is to get ourselves liberated from those oppression. Not necessarily we are oppressed violently or physically, but mentally, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, politically, socially, and so on. Sometimes even economically. We're oppressed. So in order to get out of this oppression, we need a critical thinking. That's the only antidote. We need to start questioning the system. We need to start questioning the existing or the status quo of our society. The moment we stop doing that, we're just flowing along the tide and it all will go down the drain. So I won't take much time to have this address, because I want to spend more time in the interaction with the rest of you later on. So when I think about what is the purpose of our education, the first and foremost thing that comes to our mind, and I have been brainwashed on that line as well, the purpose of your admission in the college, it depends on how much ROI, return of investment, you can get out of the college. So when people invest in their education by taking loans, the only ROI we think about is what kind of job I will get once I finish this. So if there is a good job prospect, what we do? We borrow a lot of money. We take out loan from bank, giving mortgage and so on, collateral and so on, and just we get admission to that college because we want to get job. Right. So the whole point of our education becomes job and employment centric. I'm not saying that employment is a bad thing, but I think when you look at the whole purpose of education, it's all about getting ourselves liberated from all sorts of oppression, all sorts of stupidity, in a simple term, that we have in our society, right? That we have within ourselves. And when you look at the meaning of education, no one will describe education as overall development of a person to get job, to get employed. The philosophers and writers will always describe as for a more purposeful life, for a more purposeful living in one's life, and to understand the reality of our society. That itself is the purpose of education. And I'm so glad I had a good time in my university days at the Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Mumbai. Like Professor Tong said, university should be a happening place. But in KOHIMA, I don't know how this university functions, because by 5 p.m., everything closes, right? That's the trend here. So university should be that kind of place where you start thinking about what have we gone wrong in our society? What is gone wrong in our society? You start questioning. Without that, I think there's no point. At some point, you will realize that you have not learned anything other than reading your textbook and memorizing it. So I want to bring the idea of, when I think about critical thinking, there are many scholars and philosophers who can cite. But the most importantly, one person that I always remember is Paulo Freire. Education students in department will know, or history, but as a social science students, if you have not read his book, it's a small thin book by Paulo Freire, a Brazilian philosopher, Marxist. But when you look at writings and understanding of social reality, there's no, to my mind, there's no writer who can describe the reality of our society, the problem of our society better than the socialist writers. Politically, I may not align with them sometimes, okay? I don't align with them most of the time. But when you look at how they describe the reality of our society, why society has gone wrong, why you are being oppressed, why you are where you are, I would really recommend reading this kind of a tiny, small book. I won't get any royalty from this book, but it's from my experience that this is how it is changing my perspective on many things. So what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is actually the objective, in simple terms, the objective and systematic analysis of information or situations. For what purpose? In order to form a reasoned judgment. For now, we all have our own judgment, right? The moment you see my face, you start judging me. The moment I see your face, you start judging me. And the pinnacle of our judgment begins the moment you introduce your tribe name in Naga context. So the point is this: critical thinking is against biases. It's questioning the biases. It's questioning the existing or the status quo of our society. So to form a reasoned judgment, it has to be reasoned. So how do we reason the judgment? So it involves evaluating evidence, questioning the assumptions, identifying biases. Everyone has their own biases, okay? Our bias, sometimes when biases take over our reason, it becomes, we make a lot of wrong decisions in life. And we lose the skill to solve problems in our life when biases take over our reasoning power. And also considering multiple perspectives. So this can be only achieved when we focus on logic and when we focus on evidence over our emotion and personal biases. So as students in the university, I think our topmost priority is not your personal biases, not your personal judgment. It's about the fact. It's about the objectivity of certain social problem or certain problem. How do we understand one issue objectively? I think that's the key. Without that, I think we would not go far in life. That's my understanding. So Paulo Freire, he mentioned in one of his writings, he says, he took out the concept of conscientization. I loved this so much. Conscientization, it involves developing critical awareness of one's social reality through reflection. You have to really, really reflect in life, and through action. So this process is essential for critical thinking because it encourages individuals to question the status quo, understand oppressive structures, and engage in transformation action. So when you look at critical thinking, the whole point is not to judge a person, not to criticize. So I think we get it sometimes very in a wrong sense that don't become a cynic. Cynicism is very bad. But critically reason out things and speak it out. And for the purpose of a transformative action. That's the ultimate goal for critical thinking, right? Not to hurt people, not to character assassinate the politician. That's not the purpose of a critical thinking, but a transformative action. So when you're sure that your purpose and your goal, your heart is clear, your intention is good, then I think you're not afraid of anything to say when you need to say the fact and the truth. You won't be afraid of the apology letters demand, right? We know in Nagaland, too much of apology letters. It's concerning. It's concerning. You have to think why there are too many apology letters demand. You have to also give a thought on that. So the whole objective of critical thinking is to see things objectively as it is, and it helps in decision making and problem solving. Because when you look at it, the whole purpose of our life is to solve problems. I mean, if you have no problems, then there's no meaning in life anymore. You have to solve problems in life, either personal or social or political, whatever problems that you see. And we are here as students in the university to learn something so that we're able to solve problems in life, either in your job setting or whether in your personal life or whether in your church for theologians, or whether in the life of people, mental health, for example, for psychology students. Right? So the goal is to solve problems. And what are the inputs for critical thinking? It's objective analysis of information is the input. Evaluating evidence, questioning the assumptions, considering multiple perspectives, and identifying your own biases. Unless you identify your own bias, it's going to be a trap for you. You'll get trapped in your own biases someday. And what will be the output? Output is reasoned judgment. So, okay, now you have found a judgment. This is a well-reasoned judgment. Now there is some fact in it. And what would be the outcome? Outcome would be a transformative action to awake the unconscious mind that we have. So we have our unconscious part in our mind. I think psychology students will explain this better. And with that unconscious mind decides our life, day-to-day life. And we don't know that we are being directed by that unconscious part of our mind. And it's very dangerous. And the whole point and ultimate impact critical thinking can give us is freedom from oppression. Either whether political or social or economic or psychological or spiritual liberation. I mean, the whole point of education is freedom and liberation, right? To me, India getting independence from British is not the actual freedom that we're looking for. The freedom is something that you can live your life without any feeling of oppression in your life. Can any one of you think, what kind of oppression do you have in your life? As ladies, as women, you have a lot of oppression that you can think of in a society like ours. I had a conversation with Madam Rosemary, who was here as a professor, and she's been fervently fighting for this women representation in the ULB, because women feel oppressed, and they rightly feel so, because women do not involve in decision making in our society. They're women, regardless of how educated you are. If you go to your village, the one contractor who cannot graduate will make all decisions on your behalf. And that's the oppression we are talking about. You are being oppressed. I mean, not physically, not in a, intentionally, but subconsciously or unconsciously, you all are also very oppressed. And we don't question that. You don't question that. I mean, not literally you, but our society does not question that. And it's a concern. So there are many things that I can talk. I mean, Paulo Freire, I want to mention him again. The oppressed, like all of us, having internalized the image of the oppressor and his guidelines and his habits, now become fearful of freedom. Now we, the oppressed, having become so used to the way of dictation by the oppressed class, now we become fearful of the actual freedom that we can get. Right? This is the consequence of when you have been oppressed for so long. We become scared to get real freedom. Whoa, I don't want this because it's scary. Without them, oppressing us always is scary. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." I'll give you an example. We have seen the worst of roads in Nagaland, right? We think, this is our fate. We can't do anything. And this is the unconscious part of our life because we don't question it. And Nagaland government got 64,000 crores in the last 10 years as grant in aid. Imagine 64,000 crores, which was announced by the ministry, the Minister for Aviation, Jyotira Aditya, Scindia. And I think that's quite intimidating when I think about it. And you have the word road condition. And we call it our fate. It's not your fate. It's not the fate of every citizen here. It's the oppression. It's economic oppression as well as, in one way, a development oppression. So we need to think critically in every sense. And rather we are fed with hornbills every year and mini hornbills in every district. And we are excited about it. Wow, this is so nice. We can see tourists from Ireland, tourists from UK, tourists from US coming to our area and just looking at us and, just observing what we do. They seem to love our culture. Sometimes I feel when they come, they don't look at us. This is my assumption, okay? I need to question this. But for now, this is my assumption. They don't look at us as, wow, what a great people. How developed they are. How forward they have become. They come and look at us as we see on National Geographic when they go and see the tribes in Africa. To me, I take it like that. And I'm not proud of them coming and looking at us, dancing in front of them. Why don't we go and look at them instead? Right? So to me, it's concerning. And like I said, I want to question this to myself. It's just my assumption for now. So I need to talk to them. When you come and look at us, what do you observe? Why do you want to see us? So that's something very concerning. And Alejandro Jodorowsky, he's an author and screenwriter and movie director and all. Famous quote that he made, I love it. Birds born in a cage think that flying is an illness, right? When a bird's born in a cage, they're all confined to the cage all their life. And when they see other birds flying, they think that it's illness. So for us, from my observation, we think that freedom is an illness here. We think that when you voice out logically, reasonably of your grievances to the government, we think that that guy is so undignified. Complaint box ase, right? Can you imagine going on the street and protesting for lack of development in your area, like as a fast unto death. If anyone does that, the whole society will talk about, "Aya, kun la bacha ase." So morom, so undignified. Was that he went to college, to the university for? People will start questioning you. But in fact, that is how brainwashed we are. That's how oppressed we are. That we become so fearful of freedom. This is what Paulo Freire says, and I love it. So when you look at, I want to bring a little bit of biblical perspective. When a story on the prodigal son, when he wanted everything and he wanted to go away from his father. He enjoyed everything that he had, but at last he realized that he had nothing left in his hand, and he had to eat along with the pigs. That was the only option available to him. And the Bible says, when you read Luke chapter 15, it says, when he came to his senses, he realized that I must go to my father's place where my father has, hundreds and thousands of servants. They eat good food every day. That's the actual freedom that he realizes. And to me, when he came into his senses means it's the liberation, it's the consciousness that we have. When you start thinking critically that, no, this is not what we are made for. This is not my fate. This is what he thought. Eating the pig's food and serving the pig and eating the pig's food is not my fate. I have a better solution. I'm entitled for something different. And I need to claim that. I think that's how we get ourselves liberated from the sort of oppression that we face every single day. I'll conclude with this note. When you look at the Naga leaders, now we Naga people as a people, in the 1918, the Naga Club was formed. And those people, the club was formed by the labor corps who were sent to France as laborers to help the France and British army in the First World War. And when they went there, they realized, whoa, there is something called like a nation, like a country. Then how about us? Why can't we form a nation? Why can't we do something about us? I think that's also the realization that came to our people. And they came back and they formed Naga Club. And Naga Club submitted a memorandum to the Simon Commission in 1928, saying that, please leave us free when you leave us. Please do not include us in the India country when you leave us. I think, as early as 1928, 1918, and after that PISO came into the picture, we're not talking about violence and guns here, but we're talking about the political consciousness that people gained in the beginning of 20th century. 21st century, 20th century in the Nagas, among the Nagas. If they could think of questioning the existing structure those days, I think it would be too much for us not to think about it in this century. If Izzat Piso could think that, no, we Nagas are different. We're different people. At least we deserve something else. If that kind of thought could enter into his mind in the 1930s, 40s, it's high time for us to start questioning the existing system that we have, right? So with that, I would leave it here. I think we don't have much time, so I would leave it here and we can have a more conversation on this part or anything that you have in your mind. There are many things to say, but I would leave it there for the question and answer hours or the dialogue that will follow. And thanks everyone and for this time, and I look forward to having a meaningful round of conversation. Thank you.